Rev up your engines!
Well, I like it that Europe is becoming a guinea pig for electric cars because I just read an article by an Englishman and it was titled, EV Broken? Finding a Technician to Fix It May Take You a While. Of course, Europe and England are trying to push electrification. I was just talking to a guy in London and he said their laws by 2030, they say they're not going to sell gas or diesel cars to people. So you got to buy electric cars, right? Well, nobody can fix them, right? There's already a real lack of mechanics to fix gasoline and diesel cars. Wait until they become electrified, if ever, and see if anybody's going to be able to fix them. This guy said that by 2030, when coincidentally the British say, well, they're not going to sell gasoline cars anymore, by 2030, they could be short 25,000 EV technicians, right? Now, one thing about electric cars, of course, is they're high voltage. They can be 400 volts, 600 volts, 800 volts. They can kill you. Technicians usually don't get paid all that well, right? Why would you want to risk your life? At least when you work on a gasoline or diesel car, the electrical power is so low, mainly 12 volts, some 24 volts, it's not going to kill you, right? These other ones can't. And the way they keep paying technicians less and less and less is certainly not going to bode well for hiring 100,000 or more new technicians so that you're going to be short 25,000 because nobody's going to want to do a dangerous job like that at such low pay. And the guys, my generation, that are older and getting ready to retire, do you think they're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on equipment to work on them? No, they aren't. Here's what an Italian guy said. Roberto, he says, I'm an independent repair shop. I'm not going to spend 60,000 euros on needed equipment when EV sales are low and the charging network is tiny. How can I make money? So, of course, why would people? They're not going to. You can see in the United States, they already have problems for them. People get their Teslas and stuff, they break. They're waiting months to get their things fixed. Think about that before you buy yourself an electric car. That's all I got to say. But the biggest reason is Toyota really doesn't make mass-produce electric cars. If Toyota does end up mass-producing electric cars, I'll tell you, and they're good, that'd be what I'd buy. Because if it doesn't break, you don't care if it's hard to fix because it doesn't break very often, right? You get a Toyota Corolla, normally it'll go well over 100,000 miles without doing anything to them except putting gas and changing the engine oil and filter. And electric cars don't have oil and filter, so you wouldn't even have to do that. So I would wait until Toyota's made them a while, and they actually work quite well. And there's an infrastructure to charge them up. Thomas Garcia says, 2010 Lexus RX350 doing a brake job, pads and rotors. What is the bedding procedure for them? All right, by bedding he means you want the brake pads to bed themselves and seat onto the new rotors, right? Basically, drive normally for the first couple hundred miles. I mean, if somebody's going to run into you, you got to slam on your brakes. You got to slam your brakes on, right? But make a point of not driving too fast, not braking too hard, and after a couple hundred miles, they should be seated in quite well, you know? And, of course, try not to drive through deep puddles. The deep puddles, cold water, that can shock them, that can warp the rotors. You don't want to drive through deep water and slam on the brakes anyways, even with an older one, because it's hot. Hot rotors get in a big puddle of water, can warp them. Just a couple hundred miles. Be conservative. Don't take it to the drag strip for the first 200 miles. Not that you're taking a Lexus to the drag strip. I mean, James Blattner says, I just passed on a Snap-on Triton D8 scan tool for $1,500. Did I screw up? Well, it depends. What do you want or what are you going to do? Snap-on stuff. It isn't just the tool. It's the upgrades. And every year you have to spend thousands of dollars to upgrade them if you work on late model cars. Let's say you got a body shop, right? You're going to be working on a lot of late model cars because people smash into things all the time. Let's say you do mainly mechanical electronic work. Well, normally, unless you're working on crappy cars like Fiats, they don't break for 3, 4, 5 years, so you don't have to upgrade it except every 3, 4, 5 years. But if you do a lot of modern work, you got to upgrade it. The Snap-on upgrades are so expensive, it's insane. And I found my Autel MaxiSys, which is like a $5,000 scan tool. Hey, that baby does all kinds of stuff. And the upgrades are so much cheaper than what Snap-on's charging. I find them a much better deal. Paul Basson says, question, will a fuel filter stop rust from getting into the cylinder heads? Not really. Now, it'll stop the big chunks, right? The ones you can see. But rust is also microscopic. And I had a customer years ago. He bought a Corvette that was sitting for 25 years in the garage. I got it running, but it kept running crap. I cleaned out the carburetor and everything. And so he put a big old fuel filter, giant one, with see-through, right? And you could see it was picking up rust because it was rusty inside, but it still ran like crap. When I took the carburetor apart, it was full of pieces of rust, right? Rust is so small, he had to go buy a brand new gas tank. And when we replace the gas tank, the problems went away. Realize, rust can be so tiny. The big pieces, yeah, it'll take them out. But the small ones are so tiny, the filter will not prevent it from getting through. Rust is insidious, which is a good thing that most modern cars have plastic gas tanks. Normally, I'm not a plastic fan, but in the case of gas tanks, plastic doesn't rust. Now, as long as you're not going off-road in rocks or punching a hole in a plastic gas tank and then goodbye tank, where a metal one will just dent, plastic is actually better because it will not rust, and you won't get any crud from the tank getting in the system because it's made out of plastic. Hey, Aaron says, Scotty, I only drive my 2023 GR86 once or twice a week. Should I worry about driving it this little? Yeah, what you want to do is, at least once a month, take it on at least a 50, 60-mile road trip. Go where it's fast, like where the speed limit's 75, and drive at 75, 80 miles an hour. Cops will usually give you 5. And do that for 50, 60 miles at least once a month. And that'll help clean the carbon out of the thing. You don't want to just piddle around. You know, that car was made for just piddling around. And it'll run a lot better that way. Plus, you do want to burn gas in your tank. You don't want old gas sitting in there too long. So, once a month, go at least 50, 60 miles on a highway at good highway speeds. Skeptical Science says, Scotty, what do you think about 88-octane gas that's usually a little cheaper? Okay, understand this. Almost every area, in the United States at least, all the gasoline you buy at the pump, no matter what company you go to, they're all refined at the same place. There's usually only one refiner in an area, right? And then theoretically, the manufacturers say, well, when we pick it up, put the additives in the gas as they fill it up. They give us additive packages, right? So let's face it, the basic gasoline in the United States that you're buying is the same no matter where you buy it, other than the additives they supposedly put in, right? Now, of course, you don't want to go to some old gas station. Maybe they got water in their tanks, or old rusty tanks if it's some 100-year-old gas station. That I'd stay away from. I'd stay to the major brands just because if something does go wrong, the company's going to have to pay for it. You know, Exxon, Shell, they're going to have to pay if they gave you some bad gas, right? Where some clown in the middle of nowhere in an old gas station, he's just going to laugh at you. You don't get any money out of it. But realize all the gasoline you buy in any area all comes from the same refinery. There's usually only one, and they sell it to all the companies, and then they add their additives, supposedly, as they fill up their tankers to bring it to the gas station where you buy it. Archie says the GM stand for greedy maniacs, considering the price and quality. Okay, well, they pay Mary Barra, the CEO. She's the highest paid of the big three. She makes all these millions and millions of dollars making bad decisions, right? Let's electrify everything. People don't want to buy electric cars. Oh, what a mistake. Well, we're not going to build our biggest selling electric one, the Chevy Bolt, anymore. Now, well, I guess, no, we're still going to make them. It's the only one they have that sells, right? And they were going to stop making them. Well, now they decided to continue making them, right? And they're trying to cut costs. Their quality is bad enough at GM as it stands today. And now they're cutting costs. They just got rid of one of their IT things, fired a whole bunch of people, right? Their technology center, yeah, they're going to make them more technological and have less technicians building them and figuring out what's wrong. So I kind of agree with that 100%. Edwin Villarreal says, I'm from Houston, Texas. Can you check my truck? Thank you. Yeah, if you want to make a big road trip, I live in Tennessee a little more than half a year and a little bit less than half a year in Rhode Island. I got a house on each end. So if you want to take a really long road trip, I'll check it out free. Matt Keel says 2015 Toyota RAV4, 73,000 miles. Slight squeak underneath when I roll in the mornings. Goes away. Anything to be concerned about? Probably not. And here's why. Your brakes squeeze metal rotors. They're like pie plates. One on each wheel, right? They're bare steel. So bare steel turns into heat when you brake. So then you come home after driving. They're hot. You brake. Guess what? Hot metal absorbs water vapor in our atmosphere, and they will rust overnight, especially if it rains. So when you start up in the morning and you hear a little squeak, if that's just the rust being wiped off by the brake pads, that's totally normal for all modern cars. So I wouldn't particularly worry about it. You might go under there, look, grab the wheels, jack it up, see if anything's got play. If something's worn, you want to replace it. But most cars these days will squeak some, especially after a rainstorm, because then the rust builds up. Or let's say you go on vacation and fly somewhere. Then you come back after a week and it often squeak because the rust built up over a whole week if nobody drove it. Vikram says, Scotty, I'm in Virginia. Recently I got a used 2008 Lexus RX350, 195,000 miles from Massachusetts. The body's completely rusted from the bottom, but everything else runs like new. Should I fix the rust? You can't really fix a lot of that rust. Once rust starts, it's like cancer. It keeps going. Like Neil Young saying, rust never sleeps, and it doesn't, right? And the kicker of that, too, is, realize, control arms, all kinds of suspension parts, your brake system, that's metal, and it's probably all rusted, too. That's the problem with cars in Massachusetts. I go to Rhode Island, right next to it, and I got the same problem. People bring me these cars that are nice cars, but they're 10, 15 years old. I go under them. They are rusting away to nothing. And even if the body isn't rusty, the brakes are, the suspension is, the frame is. And once rust starts, you're kind of screwed. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.